Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Old Barney's Hobby Handiwork. And back again with some more progress on the Isengard troll that I've been working on. And just sort of slogging forward on that project, trying to get it finished. It's a learn as I go, so it's very, very slow progress on that. But I have managed to get some work done on it and done a few other bits and pieces here and there, so we'll give an update on that as well. So since the last time, I have drilled some holes, 3 holes in the armor plate at the top, and added some bits of cord which are holding on that cape, I guess. And you can see I've added a patch on there, which is just covering up one of those big blobs of the yellow part of the green stuff, and still struggling with that, getting chunks of that, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to break them down, so I've taken to sort of trying my best to remove them from the mix whenever I come across them, but obviously I didn't do it that time and I had to cover it up. So I'm going to show a picture of what I've been trying to do on the front here. You can see in the picture, just pulled up a bunch of images on different types of armor. So this is what I've got, trying to replicate that. I've got a strap running down to this kind of leather small breastplate, I guess you'd call it, with 2 other small straps going over there, and I've just put those on, and looking at them on the camera now, they look pretty ugly, so I need to clean those up a bit. And there's another one that going underneath his arm here, which goes under the cape. I'm getting ready to do the belt and sort of skirt around his midriff, so I've been filling in the sort of the crotch area where I'm going to be trying to put a chainmail sort of skirt front and back, and then on each side I'm going to have some armor plates hanging down from a belt. And if you go around to the back side, I've actually just put that piece of green stuff on, so I've built up that area and then I've put a piece of green stuff on. I'm going to do some chainmail. I've started there, but I need to let it dry a little bit first, so I'm just waiting for that. I just did a test there, did a couple holes, and it's still a little bit too wet, so probably going to wait for about an hour, and maybe not quite that long before I do that. Hopefully that works out okay, or that'll be a lot of work to fix up. So that's where I am now, and I'm going to do a little bit of more work on him today. Just over here on the side, I was able to assemble my Grimhammer Captain and the remainder of my set of Erebor Dwarves and prime them black, so we'll get working on those guys eventually as well. Okay, we'll be back when I've got some more to show. Well, there's my first ever attempt at doing chainmail, and I'm really glad I did watch a couple of instructional videos on how to do chainmail. Didn't come out perfect, but I am going to just leave it. If I try to fix any of that, I'm just going to completely mess it up and have to scrape all of that off. And I'm reasonably happy with how that turned out. And what I did was where are you? There. I used this tool, which is one of the Games Workshop tools, and it basically comes down to pressing in, and I don't want to touch it, pressing in and pushing up, and then getting behind it and pressing in and pushing up, pressing in and pushing up, and doing a whole row of that, and then coming the other way, pushing in and pressing down, pushing in and pressing down. So you get kind of like a wavy pattern. It looks a lot more like chainmail than it would if you were to just like push a whole bunch of holes in it. So that's done, and next I will, oh, the sun just went in, I will lay him on his back for a second, and I'll have to do the front part of that, and I think I'll have to wait a little bit for that. I now have a figure sticking under my ring. I did wait about 40 minutes for that green stuff to dry before I did that, put those holes in it. And I'm glad I did that because it would have been too soft and sticky if I had tried it right away. My first attempt at it, I did try to do it right away, and I ended up having to scrape it all off because it was just a mess. Okay, so we'll be back again in a bit. Well, I've just managed to put on a base coat of lead belcher on my Grimhammer Captain and put some Nuln oil on him. And I have a visitor. Garrett is here.
I've returned.
Fresh back from Articon. And he came bearing gifts for me.
I already gave them to you.
It's like Christmas time.
I forgot to show you this cool thing.
I got my SBG magazine. With my own personal little post-it note, which is amazing. What'd you get?
This was the thing we bought when we were at Bugman's.
It's a dice card.
What is that?
It's a dice shaker.
Oh, wicked.
See, there's some dice. Put them in here. And then you roll the dice.
That's Mrs. Old Barney over there. Bilbo Baggins. Hey, this is a family show. These are my, what are these? Are these the STF? These are the STF and the black ones. And a couple of Articon dice as well, which is amazing. And I've joined all the ranks of people. And I have my own unit of Iron Hills Dwarves. Because I do have Dane, so I kind of needed some of those guys as well. And one blister of crossbows. Thank you very much, Garrett, for bringing all that stuff back.
You're welcome.
And for carrying, like, what was it, 30 magazines back to Canada
well,
for various
Andrew
people?
and I was 26.
26, yeah.
It was a feat.
So were you carrying those all around England for the whole time you were...
It was like 3 days of carrying
3 days?
them.
Yeah. Well, thanks anyways for doing that. Okay, thank you, Garrett.
Thanks.
Later. I'm back, and it's about 2 weeks since my last clip. I've just rolled out a big piece of green stuff and put it across the mid-drift there. I'm getting ready to poke holes in it and make another piece of chainmail out of it like I did on the back side here. And both of these are going to be directly below the belt, so they look rather low, but it's because I'm going to put a belt across his middle there. And I've been trying my hand at some press molding, just because I need some more Uruk shields, and I've never tried that before either, but I used that guy and press molded a couple molds. And what I'm going to do with these shields is, see if I can do this with one hand here. I really wish Games Workshop would just sell like blisters of shields and weapons and stuff. But anyway, I'm not sure the light is too good, but I'm going to be hanging these shields down from his belt on the side to cover those gaps in the chainmail there. That's what I'm doing them for anyways. Also doing a little bit of work on my Grimhammer Captain, just started painting up his base a bit. And I've got out my Hobbits here, which I took to my games club yesterday and just did a little bit of work on their bases while I was playing board games and stuff. I've got an event in, I think, 4 weeks this weekend, where I'm going to be running, trying to run all the scenarios from the Scouring of the Shire book. I just spray painted these guys. So hopefully I'll be able to borrow some miniatures, particularly ruffians. I have a small number of ruffians. I'm really hoping that Travis makes it out because I know he's got a big collection of them. And some terrain, hoping to get some terrain, some dwarf, not dwarf, some hobbit holes and sort of stuff like that. Anyway, I've waited about probably 40 minutes, so I'm gonna have a go at making that into chainmail now. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, that's done, and it came out okay. Not perfect, but it's all right. I'm going to now try to do a little bit of repair on the top part of that chest plate because it's looking a little mangled at the top. So I've rolled out a very small piece of green stuff that I am going to try to smooth over that top plate to get it smoother and a little less messed up looking. See how that goes. That worked out okay. It looks better than it did. I also covered over that top strap again, and it's still quite wet. I find that you have to do the best you can with this and then wait for about half an hour, and then you can go back and try to touch it up. I started trying to work at the seam between where the plate and the strap comes together, and I started to mess it up, so I'm just going to leave that be for a little while and wait for it to dry, and then I'll come back to it. I have still a bit more green stuff made, so there's a spot on his back between the cape and the chainmail. Now the belt is going to go right up against the chainmail, but you can still see some ugly seams and chunks of green stuff that I had previously added there, so I'm going to use that little bit of green stuff I have and try to clean that up a little bit before I try putting the belt on there. I was hoping the belt would cover most of it, but even the belt's gonna not cover all of that mess, so we'll see what we can do. Well, that turned out alright. It took a little while, but managed to cover up most of those ugly seams. Still is a seam close to the chainmail, but that'll be covered over by the belt, so I'm fine with that. Also added some more material to clean that up. The area there just between the plastic of the arm plate and the big plate on top of his back there. There's a little gap in there that was quite messy before, so I cleaned that up as well. Starting to get the hang of spreading the green stuff. I find with this material it's somewhere between working on it and having the feeling that it's a total mess and you're going to have to scrape it all off, and then suddenly it just works out. Not to say that I don't ever have to scrub it all off, but I don't know. It's a really unusual material to try to sculpt with, that's for sure. It takes a lot of practice, obviously. I think there's some techniques, especially on spreading and trying to remove the seam. Like even there, you can still see the seam of the green stuff. It's very difficult to sort of hide that and blend it to the point where it doesn't show. And I'm not sure if maybe it's a matter of I don't know, maybe you can sand this stuff afterwards. I actually did try filing a bit of it just to see what would happen. I had a messy area down there, and so you can see that discolored area there. I just went over it with my hobby file to smooth it out just to see what would happen. Worked out okay. It's a completely different color, but of course that doesn't really matter because it's going to be painted, but not quite sure that's good enough. So anyway, that's all I can do on this guy now because he has too much he has too many wet green stuff spots on him. I did that, covered over the top of that plate, covered over that strap, the shoulder, and across the back. So that's quite a bit of work. So he's coming along. He's getting closer every time. I'd say I'm probably 3/4 of the way done this guy now. really once I get the belt on and hang the shields on, really that's going to be it. It's after that it's just going to be the cleanup, and then we will be able to prime him. I still want to do a little bit of work up in here, those two little straps that are connecting there, and also there's kind of like a divot right under his chin there, just above the breastplate. I gotta try to cover that somehow. So yeah, that's it for him for today, I think. Well, I'm doing some planning for the event I'll be running next month, the Scouring of the Shire scenarios, and just looking through the book, and it comes down to the fact that the Battle of Bywater and I believe it's the Battle of Southfarthing, they're both played at the same time. There's a picture of one of them. Where are we here? Yeah, the Battle of Southfarthing and the Battle of Bywater are almost simultaneous. So I need enough hobbits and ruffians to run both of them at the same time. I know I don't have enough ruffians. So I have about 12 of the ruffians. I think 4 are painted, and there's the other 8 that are primed, and I've started doing the basing. And Sharky and Worm are there, and up here I've got Lobelia and Paladin Took, and then the 4 mounted Hobbit heroes, of course, Hornblower, and here I've got 12 Hobbit militia. 4 of them I've just primed, and I've got 8 of the sheriffs, 4 just primed, and I've got 8 Hobbit archers. So I don't have enough here to do all the hobbits, so I went downstairs to my pile of unopened blisters and found 4 more blisters of hobbits. So I've got 8 more militia and 8 more of the Hobbit archers. So that's going to give me enough hobbitry to do both of those big battles at the same time. Problem being that this is a month away and I have to get all of this done. Fortunately, I have the first 2 weeks of September off, so we'll be at the cottage for 1 week and at home the second week, so I kind of know what I'm going to be doing while I'm off. I have a feeling. Yeah, so going to be short on the ruffians. I know Travis has a huge collection of them, and I'm really hoping he's able to come, or at least maybe loan me some of the ruffians for the event. And I think it'll be really fun. I mean, we've got a bunch of guys at our club. It's going to be an OSBGL event day combined with Newmarket Games Club meeting. And I know we have a bunch of guys at the Newmarket Games Club that are not SPG players, but they do have a bit of an interest in it. So this will be a great way to introduce them into the game. You know, at our last meeting yesterday, I was playing one of the Goblin Town scenarios with 7-year-old Charlie, who is the son of one of our, Chris, who runs the club with me, and it was great fun. So hopefully we can get a lot of new people into those games and show them how good SPG is. Okay, that's it for this video, and we'll be back next time. I'm going to have to take a bit of a break from working on Mr. Troll, but we will see what we can do to keep him moving towards completion. And we will be back hopefully before the event, so maybe in 2 weeks, see what the progress is on all of this. Take care, guys.